Yes, sir. Welcome back to Talking Nets, episode 67. Keith McPherson and Hudson Flynn coming to you with less than 2 weeks until the NBA returns. We're in the calm before the storm, as Hudson just called it before we went live. We're just getting ready for real basketball to come back and covering the Nets and, being here on Talking Nets maybe twice a week once, the games tip off and just preparing for that. Obviously, also, this is a John Boy Media podcast. John Boy Media is heavy in the baseball offseason, hot stove talk, free agents, signings, and trades. So I'm doing some work with stuff like that. The GM Files is coming out. The John Boy Media Winter Meetings live stream you got to check out on the main John Boy Media YouTube page. It'll be 12 to 8 on Thursday. When this podcast releases, we'll either release it tonight, Wednesday night, or Thursday morning, December 10th. But either way, got that stuff out of the way. Let me introduce none other than the young Hudson Flynn. What up, brother?
Man, not much. Exciting times in the company, exciting times in the NBA. This is going to be our last episode for a long time where we're not talking about Brooklyn Nets basketball. We're not going over games, plays, things that we've seen, because just this coming weekend, and we'll hit on it soon, we got preseason starting up, and we're going to have games, even if they don't matter. We're going to have games to talk about. And wow, it's just crazy to think that everything has moved so quickly, and we finally reached a point where this is it. This is our last episode until, we're talking about what the Nets did in the finals, that we're not going to have basketball to talk about. And man, I'm just excited for it. I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for now. And I'm excited for this episode, Keith.
Yeah, I'm excited for every episode we do. Honestly, we're doing these episodes once a week. We're getting up there in numbers. We're at 67 now. I guess sometime during this season, we'll hit 100. And it is an exciting time and an interesting time. And one guy is having quite the interesting time, or had quite the interesting week. So let's get right into what's new, talking about NBA news and rumors. And I'm tired of this rumor, but I love this guy, and I love what this guy has done. James Harden. I've been over the whole James Harden rumors. I've been over the whole James Harden trade for 15 days. I think on Twitter I said 10 days, but it was like way before Thanksgiving, a couple days before Thanksgiving, where I was like, this is not going down. So the Harden saga, right? Last Saturday, we saw him partying with Lil Baby. He had, the Richard Millie watch for Lil Baby. He had the honey buns. He had the stack of money, which if you listen to Lil Baby 4 Pockets, he talks about a honey bun. He's talking about a stack of money. And then he got him a Prada bag because he's proud of him. That's also a Lil Baby lyric. Some people don't know, like, Lil Baby and James Harden, like, they go back a couple years. I think before Lil Baby was as big as he is now, him and Harden were tight. And then even in the summer, we heard rumors of them like racing their Lamborghini. So before we get into the full, breaking down where is James Harden, what'd you think when you saw like Harden is not showing up to practice, but he's in the strip club with Lil Baby?
Man, I wouldn't show up for practice if I could be in the strip club with Lil Baby. What? Like, Harden's a person. Harden's a human. Harden can make the decisions that he needs to make for himself. And that decision seems pretty straightforward to me. I mean, I don't know. My opinion might be a little different from yours coming from an 18-year-old, but man, let him have his fun. I don't think James Harden's missing out on anything. Yes, he's got a new coach. Yes, he's got a new front office. Yes, there's trade rumors swirling around. James Harden's not slowing down. James Harden's not missing anything because he's missing check-in day, photo day, first day of preseason. He's all good. He knows what he needs to do, and he's been working since his season ended to make sure that he can do it. So him partying with Lil Baby, like, you do you, man. Like, it's not making your basketball any worse. It's not making the team any worse.
Yeah, and no coincidence that the NBA came out and banned all nightclubs, bars, strip clubs for NBA players this season, which I think that's wild. Like, I understand safety protocols. I understand, we got to do the right things and COVID and this, that, and the other, but you can't lock these guys up. You already locked them up in the bubble. Now they're going without the bubble and they're trying to lock these guys up. It's like either you lock them up or you don't. But either way, James Harden didn't report, and everybody saw him in Vegas. I think he was in Vegas up until Sunday night. And then, they talked about he didn't report to the team practice. And then he didn't report to his individual practice. And then he did finally show up for training camp, I think yesterday or the day before. And then more rumors started to swirl about James Harden open to being traded to the Sixers. And I'm like, good, take the Nets out of it. And then even I think I even threw the Knicks a bone because I'm like, yo, this is Knicks for clicks. When someone mentioned the Rockets as the Knicks of the South, I didn't really quite get that. I just don't think that that's a good comparison. Like the Knicks are trash and have been like one of the laughing stocks of the league. The Rockets a couple years ago, we thought were going to go to the finals and represent the Western Conference. So I didn't see the parallel between calling them the Knicks of the South. That's just Knicks for clicks, just to get people to like laugh and click on something. But at the end of the day, Harden has reported, and like Hudson said, he doesn't need these practices. This is James Harden. He's a top 5 player in the league. I don't know. What are you thinking now? What do you expect to see? Like the chemistry between him and John Wall. Do you think the holdout is over? Harden has reported. Do you think it's all going to go swimmingly in Houston? Do you think everyone's going to fall in line and this is going to work, or you think this is going to blow up sooner rather than later?
No, it's not going to work. It's obviously not going to work. It was never going to work. If you have, a top 5 player at the NBA that doesn't want to be on a team, he's not going to want to be on the team. He's not going to play as well as he would if he's competing for a championship. You put KD in James Harden's situation, obviously he makes the team better. But if KD doesn't want to be there, then he's not going to be as good as he's going to be in Brooklyn, right? So for me, it doesn't really make much sense to think about them, getting better, getting worse. John Wall to me is someone with a little bit more upside than a Russell Westbrook. I like the upside, but he hasn't played in, I think, over 2 calendar years. He's coming off of a major, major injury. He's been sitting. He's cold. He's got these injury problems. He's got this absolute albatross of a contract. So you're not going to be able to compete with a James Harden contract and a John Wall contract on the same team just with how large they are. You're not going to be able to build around them because at the end of the day, John Wall, as much as I love him, I love the way he plays. I loved him, especially when he was a lot younger, doing the Dougie out of the, when he was getting called on as a rookie. It's just not going to work. They're not going to be able to build. It's just kind of just killing time until he moves somewhere. And I like that the Nets aren't the center of the conversation anymore. The Nets don't need to be the center of the conversation. The Nets are the center of the conversation, the center of the NBA, with everything else, with KD, with Kyrie. That right there, that is the kind of team you can build around, not to mention Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jared Allen, et cetera. The Nets don't need that. They don't need that kind of bad press. There's a reason that, everyone's asking Sean Marks in these press conferences about what's going on with James Harden is because that's the news cycle. But as soon as that's no longer the news cycle, it's no worries in Brooklyn. Karis LeVert doesn't have to keep looking over his shoulder. Spencer Dinwiddie doesn't have to keep looking over his shoulder. And yes, Sean Marks is obviously going to do his due diligence. And yes, if the price is right, he's going to trade for James Harden because who wouldn't trade for James Harden if the price is right? But he's not going to mortgage the future. He's not going to do any of that stuff because he doesn't need to, because the Nets right now, without anyone else on their team, with the team that they have built currently, they are top 2, top 1, top 3 team in the NBA. So what's the problem? There's no worries from right now. There's no need for Sean Marks to do anything. There's no holes on this roster. I think I sent out a tweet from Talking Nets today. There's no holes in the roster. Like we thought there might be a hole at like stretch 4, but KD's playing the 4. KD might even play the 5 in some sets. Who knows? There's no holes. The Nets don't need to move. To me, Harden, Houston, y'all can do whatever. You can go out there. You can party with little baby. Harden's the only reason that you're relevant at all, and he doesn't want to be there. So you just need to figure out what you need to figure out for yourself. The Nets don't need to do anything right now.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, as Nets fans, when we first heard that rumor, we're like, yeah, we want James Harden. Everybody would want James Harden. We're looking at a team that if you put James Harden on our team, are already competitive, or what we expect to be competitive, are already stacked team. Yeah, we're all hyped. Like, we didn't even care about the draft. We're like, get us James Harden. But now that we see how that kind of went, obviously Russell Westbrook got up out of there. The Wall trade went down. Harden holding out, which is great, man. Do your thing, because that was the last bit of run that you got. Now that you've reported you're in camp, which you're basically in lockdown, because I know they have contact tracing and all these other things that the NBA, what do I always say? The NBA leads and everybody else follows. People don't realize like the NBA is in the top of like the medical field too. Like if they want to track their players and make sure their players are doing the right things and control COVID so it doesn't affect the season, I think they've got a good grip on that. So
They're not having any Des Bryant situations.
oh
Mr.
my
Cowboys
God,
fan.
what a joke that was last night. And I'm a Cowboys fan, so I got love for Dez. I don't miss Dez. I don't think he's an NFL player. I mean, he was on the NFL team, but like I don't think he's a factor. But man, X factor, throw up the X. But man, did I want to see him at least get a chance to face his old team. And when I heard that yesterday, I was just like, no way. Like the NFL is so bogus. Like, all right, if this guy has a positive COVID test, why is he out warming up with the other team and like doing things, even if he's wearing a mask? Like they just do anything and say anything. And I felt bad for Dez. He got on his Twitter. He said he's quitting for the rest of the season. He's going to focus on business. Can I show y'all some of my businesses? I'm going to drink some wine and cope. And I'm like, yo, this dude doesn't deserve that. The NFL already played him when they ruled his catch not a catch. And then forever, Dez caught it, became a thing. And me as a low-life Cowboys fan, this shit is lame. I need the Nets to ball out. I need the Nets to take me out of my misery. So every night the Nets are on, I can turn that TV on and be proud of something that I've been repping. So moving on, man. Moving on. Still in NBA news, still in what's new. The NBA is not requiring sports coats on coaches anymore. What we talking about? Practice? We talking about dress codes? We talking about sport coats? So Woj says the NBA coaches are no longer required to wear sports coats during game. Sources tell Zach Lowe. Coaches must wear business attire. No track pants during games. Coaches must wear face masks during games, sources said. Hudson Flynn, how you feeling about this? I don't know, man.
Man,
What?
I'm just going to be honest. I'm as big of an NBA fan as you'll find. I actually didn't know it was a rule that you had to wear like a sport coat. Like I was like, oh, really? That's a rule? My first thought was, man, now we're not going to get to see Steve Nash rip off his coat and do the old
Jim Boeheim.
the old Jim Boeheim, the old Gary Williams.
Yeah.
Sweat Gary, sweat, all that stuff.
Man.
We're not going to be able to see it, but whatever. I mean, I put this in the notes myself, so I can't clown it too much. But my thought is, this shows that if this is the Woj bomb that's breaking, the next Woj bomb that breaks is going to be the season is starting, because that's the point in the offseason that we're at. We had the hot stove, we had the talks, and like I said, and like I'm going to keep saying, obviously the Nets are going to have to do something because they have too many players. There's going to be a move, not the Harden move probably, because why would it be? But there's going to be a move. But like right now, it's the calm before the storm. This is the things. We're getting logistical things out of the way. And the only thing I really thought about this was, I mean, I feel like this would be such a huge fight in like Major League Baseball. Like imagine if they told managers they didn't have to wear the uniforms on the sideline anymore. Like, can you imagine what like La Russa would do if they tried to tell him you didn't have to wear that anymore? Like what?
Baseball is the only sport where the coach wears the same uniform, same thing as the players. And there are these washed fans, these old fans that feel like, hey, I want my manager to wear a uniform and be dressed like the players. There's other people that feel like they shouldn't, or they should be able to wear a hoodie or a zip up like you see Aaron Boone wear. I don't think this shit matters at all. I think it's just like, it's like a little thing that they just choose one way or the other, and then it becomes a thing. Like nobody cares. Like I expect Steve Nash to still wear a suit. I saw him in the 2K images with a suit. So I'm picturing our head coach wearing a suit, even if it's not required. I think some of this came from the bubble, which is like the bubble is a different kind of thing. These guys are living in the bubble. They're not putting on suits every day. You saw Mike Malone, the Nuggets coach. He had on like Vans, khakis, like a polo shirt, like kind of swagged a little different for a coach. There are some other coaches too that like I wouldn't say they dress down, but they're in a bubble. They're in basketball prison. They're stuck in hoops world. Like, these guys aren't putting together a shirt and a tie and suits, but whatever, none of that matters. So moving on to the next logistical thing in the NBA. The NBA gives $30 million to every NBA team to make up for lost revenue. How nice of the NBA. It's NBA teams will get $30 million each to help finances and protect against any liquidity issues due to the pandemic, according to a report in Sports Business Journal. The money comes from $900 million the league raised from notes issued by the NBA in the private placement market. So cool. I mean, I don't know if other leagues are doing that. Like,
wait. I thought the NBA went woke, so they went broke. I thought no, that's my bad. That's my
that's
bad.
what Ted Cruz said, right?
Because I thought no, yeah, because I
Dumbass.
thought because the NBA was like, yeah, black people are like people and stuff. I thought they were gonna lose all their money. That's my bad. That's just me being ignorant, I guess.
Black Lives Matter bankrupt the NBA. I don't know where they're coming up with $30 million for 30 teams. Nobody watched that stuff. Man, didn't all their advertisers pull out when the players took a knee? No. I'm glad that narrative is done, man. I'm glad, like, we're finally moving past a lot of that. This year was so charged with that, and it's so goofy. Here's a question for you. You think some of these courts are going to have Black Lives Matter on the court when we see these actual arenas and not an NBA bubble? I don't think they all will, but maybe some will. And not to turn this podcast into BLM talk, it's still a thing out here, man. Like, if you watch college basketball, what was that kid, Seth Thomas from Ohio State, took a knee because someone he actually knew was shot by police, and the police said he had a gun in his hand and he had a Subway sub. So, like, this stuff is still going on. It might not be hitting your phone. The videos might not be going viral. There might not be any videos, but this stuff is still going on, and this stuff is still happening. And if people don't want to see the protests, if people don't want to see the kneeling, if people don't want to hear the phrase Black Lives Matter, then Black lives have to matter to the police that are taking Black lives and still shooting people. I can't for the life of me wrap my head around, like, how people want one thing to stop when the other thing has to stop first. But that's all I got on that, Hudson. Before we move on to what's next,
just all
go
nonsense.
for it.
Just all nonsense. The fact that anyone would care if it is or not. The one thing, my prediction would be, if teams are going to do it, your Brooklyn Nets are doing it first. The Nets lead when it comes to all that stuff. The Nets are doing it first, and I hope they do. I hope they do, because first off, so what if they do? Like, it's not hurting anyone. It's certainly not hurting anyone. It's helping people. It's bringing awareness. It's stating a fact. Like, I don't know. Like, who cares? If you look at soccer stadiums, I'm a big soccer fan. Like, every single soccer stadium right now has we all matter, soccer's for everyone, because, soccer's an international global game. So is basketball. So just let it happen. And, the last thing I'll say, connecting the two, is there was a soccer game that just got completely postponed a day because the head coach of one of the teams got called a slur by one of the officials.
Yeah.
And they stopped everything. And they were like, okay, we're done with the game. He's out. See ya. We're going to play the next game with a different guy. And that was like met with absolutely, like, very, very little, repercussion. No one was saying anything about it. Imagine if someone did that in the NBA. Imagine if that happened. Imagine all of the blowback. Like, there are just certain things that are like, you can do them. You can support people. You can be a good person. You can be a good organization. And you shouldn't have to expect backlash. The NBA shouldn't have to expect backlash if they put Black Lives Matter on the court. That's my whole take on it.
Yeah, I saw that on Sports Center too this morning. The guy was like, "You call me a Negro? You say Negro?" Which, like, Negro was like, in different languages, it just means black. But in America, which, like, America really is the one that set the tone for the world with, like, racism and racial slurs, like the N-word, not Negro, the other one. But then you see that happen, and that's on ESPN, and I'm like, yo, that's unnecessary, man. But that's where we are in the world. This stuff is still going down. It's not going to change until people decide to make a change. And the NBA obviously is on the right side of things and will continue to make the right changes. But let's change this pod up a little bit. Let's lighten the mood and get into our team and talk about your Brooklyn Nets with What's Nets. Nets news. Man, I am a Yankee fan. If you're watching this on YouTube, you probably see Derek Jeter and this Yankee logo, and this whole wall that down this way is Yankee stuff. I probably wouldn't even be on this podcast. You probably wouldn't even know who I am if I wasn't a Yankee fan. And obviously, I'm a Nets fan too. But those two teams come together for me in one place. Not New York. Obviously, one plays in Brooklyn, one plays in the Bronx. But the Yes Network. And the Yes Network comes out and says the Brooklyn Nets will be as big as any event or any team we have. Now, for you at home listening, the Yes Network is the Yankees Entertainment and Sports Network. They also have NYCFC. They also have the Liberty. And I think one more team that I'm forgetting plays on Yes. Oh, the Brooklyn Nets. But I think there's another team too that gets some run. But for the Yes Network to come out and say that and talk about, they said it. They're not beating around the bush. The same way Steve Nash says we're playing for a championship, the Yes Network has come out and said this is the most hype we've ever had. This is the most anticipation we've ever had for a Brooklyn Nets season. They know KD, Kyrie, and the rest of these guys are on this team and the center of the basketball world, definitely in New York, the new Mecca, if you would want to call it that. I love this attention that the Yes Network has brought to the Brooklyn Nets because as a Yankee fan, a lot of times I'm conflicted when I see stupid Yankee fans say stuff like, why are the Nets on my channel? Like, what are you talking about, bro? Or Yankee fans saying, oh, they should have worked it out where, like, the Nets are on Yes and the Yankees are on Pix 11. What's going on? Get this second-class team off my channel. And I'm like, hey, take it easy. Now, I understand New York versus New Jersey stuff. When the Nets are in New Jersey, we were always like little brother to New York. But nah, we're the Brooklyn Nets now. We're repping the whole tri-state area in a way. What are you thinking about the Yes Network, Hudson? Obviously, we also have done some Yes Network stuff. We wouldn't have been in the digital fan seats for the bubble without the Yes Network. I did a couple commercials for the Yes Network for the Nets and the Yankees. And then we also did some live streams. We watched the Nets play the Pacers last year on the Yes Network's campus. And then we did another one looking at a throwback game. So shout out to the Yes Network. We are, I guess, affiliates, friends of the network, and we are supporting you putting the Brooklyn Nets at the forefront. I love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we had the whole Nets on Yes crew on the podcast over the summer. And I'm going to give the same preface that you did. I got Aaron Hicks' walk-off catch from 2 seasons ago. That's my screensaver. That's staying my screensaver because that's a sick photo. I love the Yankees. I love the Yankees to death. But, the Yankees could mess some things up this offseason and not be looking like, the favorites to win it all going into the next baseball season. The Nets didn't do that. The Nets are, a top 3, top 2 favorite to win the entire thing. There's more hype going into this Nets season than I think there's going to be for the Yankee season unless the Yankees do something absolutely ridiculous this offseason. The Yes Network, they're all smart people. They know they're the Yankees Entertainment and Sports Network. They know they have to do all this Yankee stuff because that's in their name. But they have the Nets. And when you have a team that's getting the most national TV coverage in the league, you better make sure that you have good coverage on them when they're playing on your local network, because this isn't some small thing. This is huge. This is huge for the Yes Network to have the Nets. They made an investment when the Nets were not doing too hot. They made an investment. Actually, that's not true because it was the early 2000s. The Nets are doing pretty well in the early 2000s, but still, they suffered through with the Nets, going 12, 12 and 60, whatever. Now the Nets are good, and that paid off. And it would be stupid of them for them not to have it pay off for their network when it does pay off, like when the Nets have this amazing team and all this hype. So absolutely they should be doing this stuff. And, obviously we don't have any old Yankees fans who hate the Nets listening to this podcast, but what would be the sense of them not doing it, right? The Nets are the biggest product. They're the most hyped product that the NBA has to offer, and they have the exclusive local TV rights to them. Absolutely, they should be doing stuff with it. And just to add to it, they have Ian Eagle, one of the best commentators, certainly without a doubt, the best local NBA commentator. The fact that he even is on a local network is obnoxious. We're so lucky to have him. We hear him doing NFL Sunday games, and then we hear him talking about the Nets. It's just amazing. So they should absolutely take advantage of that, and they absolutely are, and I'm absolutely all for it.
Yeah, man, it's 2020 and it's time. And I can tell you there are people at the Yes Network that have been working at the Yes Network for 18, 19 years since the Yes Network began. They suffered through the 12 and 70 season. They still worked on the Nets back in 2009 all the way to get to this time. And the Nets are not a second-class organization to the Yankees. They have KD, they have Kyrie, they're in Brooklyn. They're, like I said, at the center of the NBA world. Everyone is talking about the Nets. The Yes Network will have 30 out of 37 first-half games from the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, TNT and ESPN are going to get the Nets too, because we know the Nets are now on every holiday. The Nets are playing primetime games. You won't be able to miss the Brooklyn Nets. The bandwagon is fully loaded, and I expect more people to be Nets fans and purchasing Nets gear. We got swaggy gear, man. Like, even if you're not a Nets fan, you might as well like set trip and rep the brand. Like, this is the time. There's so many Nets fans like myself, like Hudson, people that have been rocking with the Nets longer than us that thought we might not never get this. Like, we might not never get to be at the top of the NBA conversation, and we are. And it's a glorious time. And I love that the Yes Network is fully in support of that. And I mean, we're obviously in support of it. We started this podcast in anticipation of KD's return, in anticipation of being at the top of the NBA. And now we're here, and we're going to definitely cover it. And we're going to do what we can. We're going to try and figure out some live streams. I think on the last pod, I said I'm going to try and connect with Matt Brooks, Brian Egan from the Glue Guys, Pooch, Billy Reinhart, everybody that, I mean, you've heard these guys on the pod. Even our guys, Dane Henson, DBM, the Beautiful Monster, Mr. Burn Notice, John Sable. So these guys, the people that are in the extended Talking Nets fam and people that you've heard on Talking Nets in the last 67 episodes, like, I'm looking to, keep working with them. Adam Armbrecht, that's another guy that's out there you might see on Twitter. We've got a solid crew of about 10 guys that I want to be able to figure out how to get. And I pretty much know how to do the logistics and stuff. But I want to figure it out where if you're home watching the Nets game by yourself and you want to be in a chat with some people that are also Nets fans watching the game, we can do that where we live stream, like me, Hudson, and Billy watching the live Nets game, and people can talk to us while we're live doing that. So we're working on that. That should come pretty soon. And sooner than that, we have to hit you guys with some unfortunate news that you knew. I mean, this was from over a week ago now, but my man Nick Claxton, he goes down for training camp at the very least, and I forget what the injury was. I know as soon as I saw that, I'm like, nah, Clax. But does this open the door for our rookie draft pick, Reggie Perry? You think he's going to get a shot, Hudson? Think he's definitely going to get a look because we got all guards.
I think he's absolutely getting a shot. He's absolutely going to get some run, not only because he has to, but because he's one of those guys that apparently slipped in the draft because of maybe some interview stuff, maybe some work ethic stuff. And of course, that stuff can all go poorly. But, I've heard a lot of people that have been steals late in the draft because of things like that. If you look to the NFL, Stephon Diggs fell to the 5th round only because of his interview. And now look what he's doing in Buffalo. A lot of players are like that. And apparently Reggie Perry is like that, but he's a baller. He's a great basketball player. And Nick Claxton, I have it right here. He had some discomfort, and now he has a right knee tendinopathy, which is a soft tissue injury, which are always lingering and are always unfortunate. And we want to see Clax. We love Clax. He's got that long body. He's got that nice shot. He's a great guy, great player. But I hope Reggie Perry gets a shot because he's a good player. He was a steal late in that draft, and I'm excited to see him play. And I'm just really, really excited to see what he can grow into because we know that Sean Marks grows players, that Sean Marks creates good players. So I'm never putting past any draft pick that the Nets have to develop into a player that can play at least regular minutes. And with the amount of guard depth we have and the lack of big men that the Nets have, especially after this injury, I expect him to maybe even try for a spot on the Nets roster, maybe even in the Nets, second, third string rotation if he does play well in this preseason, in this training camp.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. I'm excited for everybody on this team. I'm sure training camp is competitive. Southern guy like that. Honestly, when we drafted him, I started thinking about our boy Donta. You called him Donta, but we learned that it was
Dante.
Dante when we talked to Justin Anderson.
Shout out Justin Anderson.
Did they go to the same school? Did they go to the same college? I know they both went to school in the SEC in the South. No, Reggie Perry went to
Reggie Perry went to Mississippi State. He went to DAC school, and Justin Anderson went to UVA, and Donta went to Alabama.
That's what it was.
That's what it was.
Went to Alabama. Reggie Perry went to Mississippi State. So there's some SEC ties there. Yeah, don't have a segue for this one. No SEC ties, Duke ties. Man, I got to talk about our guy Kyrie in the whip with the cup in his hand, with the ice, playing his own music. I think I was the first one on this. Like, I saw this maybe 13 minutes after he posted it on his Instagram story, and I just screen recorded it and put it on Twitter. But the next morning, our guy Scoop B did the same exact thing and tweeted the video out, and it got tons of retweets. And I'm like, yo, we didn't get the same effect. That's the difference when you have followers. That's why it's worth building your following, because you never know who can see your stuff that has followers too and can retweet it and amplify it. But hey, never mind that, who was first. We were on it, and I was pumped to see it. My guy Kyrie was rapping about Kobe, Gianna, Gigi. What else did he say in those bars? He shouted out Jersey. Oh, and most importantly, he kicked some Yankee bars. We just talked about the Yankees, the Nets, and the Yes Network. He said, I'm seeing Yankee jewels, got the Bambino tools. I don't know. I wrote the lyrics somewhere. He said, I'm Jersey made. I'm worthy like a 42 Mariano save. I'm like, oh, Kyrie with the bars. I didn't even know he could rap. What were you thinking when you saw that? You're like, just another plot twist in the mind of Kyrie. Like, this guy might have an album in the cut somewhere.
I mean, he's not talking. He never talked about swinging Ted Williams tools. He wants to be in New York. He wants to be playing here. He loves it. This is what he wants to be doing. This is his home. I love it. I love it. You can say all the negative things about Kyrie that you want, and we will talk about some things that Kyrie has done recently that people aren't saying great things about. But Kyrie's just living his life. He's just having fun. He's just doing what he does. And this is what I want to see, because, you can get so easily bogged down, with doing all this stuff you have to do. Kevin Love talked about, the expectations being put on you, all these things, all the hate that you can get, all that. And no one gets more hate than Kyrie. So he could get bogged down. He could get a little depressed. He could get a lot of weight on his shoulders, because he deserves to have that weight on his shoulders basketball-wise, but not as a person. But he's having fun. He's just living his life. And, man, I just hope he can stay that way. I hope he can continue to have that positive mindset. I hope he can continue having fun and just, like KD said, play basketball and go home. That's all he's got to do, and he's going to live his life, and he's going to have a great time doing it.
Okay, so I was not first on this, because now I'm going back to the screen recording on my phone. I thought I saw it like 13, 14 minutes after he posted it. No, it says 13, 14 hours. I should have known that because I saw it at night and this was daylight. But let me play Kyrie's rap. I know everybody probably heard it, but I don't want to misquote his bars. He kicks some stuff here.
Ancestors doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm pairing life's canvas, moving as an artist. Solo to my progress, I'm on a team full of martyrs. Paradise is mama, growing peace and yana. All these little blessings wrapped in presents. Counter. My big AI, call me Lil Mountain. Not call the faith in front of warrior, just watch the outcome. 2020 news leave us little dazed and confused. Let's snap back Bulls hat 92. Big R, Mamba Scala, AI attitude. Life's a ball. Swinging Bambino tools. I'm seeing Yankee jewels. I'm Jersey made. 42 is worthy like a Mariano save.
Oh,
that was,
the beat was fire. So no matter what he said over that beat with that piano, that was fire. But yeah, I ran that back. He referenced Kobe. He referenced AI. He referenced 92 Bulls, Jordan. He said he referenced the great Bambino, Babe Ruth, Mariano. I like this energy from Kyrie. People paint him out to be the worst guy, paint him out to be a weirdo. He also came out at the same time and said he's not talking to the media. But I don't care. Did you care that he said he wasn't going to talk to the media, like during the media day? Like, nah, I'm going to just not do that. Like, sent an email out and had Twitter in a frenzy. Like, people got to get off his nuts.
No, I don't care. And it just shows the way that the narrative has been shaped around him because, like, do you remember when everyone was like rallying around Marshawn Lynch because he didn't talk to the media?
Yes.
And everyone was like, man, we love Marshawn Lynch. He's so cool. He doesn't talk to the media.
Yeah.
But you're not saying that about Kyrie because
You
the
know why I'm
narrative
here.
about Kyrie is negative. Like, imagine if Kyrie went up and did that. If he did that, like,
I'm
it'd
about
be
that
like
action.
selfish. He doesn't care about anything, princess, like all this dumb stuff. It's just dumb. And if he doesn't want to talk to the media, he doesn't have to. That's not his job. His job is to play basketball, not talk to the media.
Facts. More facts. Like, I said this to the glue guys because they tweeted something about it. I was like, maybe he's just getting in front of it, right? In a season that is very important to all of us, and definitely him, this is the construct of like what him and Katie imagined and made happen. Maybe he is trying to get in front of the stories, the BS, right? Because we saw last year, he only played 20 games. We saw all of the confusion, people twisting his words. He did list what players he thought, were a part of this team. Some of those players aren't here anymore, whatever. Maybe he's getting in front of it. And I equated it to this. When Johnny Manziel played football at Texas A&M his freshman year, I forget, maybe Ken Hamlin was the coach, their head coach or whatever. The organization, the school, decided that he wasn't going to talk to the media as a freshman at all. They knew very well what Money Manziel was about and what he might say in front of the cameras, in front of the media, and they got in front of that. They said he's not going to talk to the media after the games. The kid goes out and just becomes the first freshman in history to win the Heisman, and then we all learn about him, and then the media starts to get to him. And fast forward to now, where's Johnny Manziel? I mean, you can go back 3-4 years. Where's Johnny Manziel? The media and all that attention didn't really bode well for the guy. So I kind of commend Kyrie and I think it's taking the high road. I think it's him just saying, I'm not going to do that. Like at this point in my career, like I'm just going to skip out on that. There are plenty players on the team for the media to talk to, and I have no problem with Kyrie deciding that he wasn't going to talk to the media now, because I also know that can change.
Exactly, it can change, and I think Pooch put out that there's actually like a sports book that's putting out odds on when he's going to have his first one-on-one interview, and part of me is like, okay, that's fun, put odds on it, that's a fun prop bet, but like also who cares? Like to me, it's like the only people that really want Kyrie to talk to the media, there's two narratives, it seems like. There's the people who want to hear him say something crazy so they can make fun of him and say whatever about him. And then there's like what the glue guy said. And I understand the sentiment that they were making. They were said, Kyrie had narratives about him. The only way for him to control the narrative is to talk to the media. And I get that. I understand that, especially because they're affiliated with The Athletic. They want Kyrie to be talking because they can get scoops. But to me, he's going to have bad press about him no matter what. There was bad press about him when he donated $200,000 to the WNBA, when he donated 200,000 meals to people struggling during the coronavirus. There's always going to be bad press about him no matter what he does. And I think he just realized that he could be as philanthropic as any one person can be. And there's still going to be negative people. There's still going to be haters. So why even involve yourself with the chance of getting more haters just by talking to the media when doing things as good as giving people free food and donating money can also get you haters?
Yeah, I think he's done these things like multiple times. Like I think he did like some type of giveaway in Jersey and in Brooklyn. Like he's out there in the field with it. He's on the ground, like doing things that like other players aren't doing. They just always find a way to try and paint him the wrong way. And speaking of painting, one Jean-Michel Basquiat, or is it Michael? I'm not sure. But there's a famous artist, painter, Basquiat, who is the inspiration for this year's City Edition jerseys. And before we talk too much about it, I know we did have an episode when they first leaked, and I definitely was like, I don't like these jerseys. They look like a 4-year-old made them. But I think the presentation, like the actual rollout for them, was a lot better. I like that we're honoring someone from Brooklyn, like an artist like Basquiat. versus Biggie like we did the last 2 years. The first year, cool. You get a bobblehead out of that. The first Coogee jerseys with the black were dope. But then we took it too far the next year. We put Bed-Stuy across the chest. The Barclays Center is not in Bed-Stuy. And Knicks fans still hold on to the fact that Biggie rapped about the Knicks and that he was a Knicks fan while he was living. I still hold on to the fact that him being from Brooklyn, if he was still living, there's zero chance he wouldn't embrace this Brooklyn team like, I don't know, Joey Badass, Fabulous, Jay-Z all did. So the City Edition jerseys are out, and I think they look way better on the players. Like, I've now seen Spencer Dinwiddie with it, Kevin Durant with it on, and the shorts are fire. Like, the shorts are fire by themselves. And I kind of said, I put it out there, hey, now what do you guys think, right? These jerseys are the jerseys that originally leaked, but I think the presentation by the Brooklyn Nets made them look cooler. I didn't order one. Mr. Byrne noticed. I saw he ordered his, had his on. I just ordered the throwback baby blue one. I'm probably not going to get these. I'm probably going to skip out on these. Thumbs up or thumbs down for the City Edition jerseys for 2020, 2021.
Man, 2 thumbs up. I love them on a player. When they were just like in that low quality, like eBay photo, that was like, eh. But now they come out and they don't look gray. They look black. They have, the herringbone. When KD came out wearing it, I was like, yeah, okay. It looks amazing on a player. And like imagining KD running up and down the court wearing those, like, I'm absolutely on board with them now. Not necessarily something that I would buy only because I don't think I could pull it off. I don't think I could make that look, but I like it on the players. I think that it's a good change. I like the step away from Biggie. I like that we're, expanding a little bit. Obviously, we had the Joey Badass jerseys, and all that hype and stuff like that. So I like it. I'm absolutely in on, expanding what people can talk about because there's so many things you can talk about from Brooklyn. There's so many cultural icons. There's so many sports icons. Like, you could do like a Brooklyn Dodgers jersey. Think about all the things that you could do with these jerseys. So I like that we're moving away from it so that we can like move into other things. And I hope that like the NBA gives like the Nets a chance to bring back, like, do you remember those earned jerseys? Like the teams that made the playoffs got a special jerseys.
The what
I remember
jersey?
those. They were the earned jerseys, I think they were called.
Earned?
Yeah, earned. Like you earned it. And like they would like give special jerseys to the teams that made the playoffs. So I hope the Nets get a chance to like expand the jerseys that they're wearing. I hope they bring back the black Coogee jerseys because those are sick. So I don't know. I'm all about it. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for what the Nets can do.
Yeah, the Nets have the most jerseys. They're all pretty dope. Better than the white jerseys. The only jerseys I don't really like. Like just the plain white with the black letters never really did it for me. I never owned one of those jerseys. But yeah, I think we got all the swag, we got all the players, we got all the look and all the talent. Like all this stuff is cool. I don't mind these jerseys at all. I think they look better now that we've actually got to see them. And I can't wait to see this team. And I also can't wait to see Spencer Dinwiddie, who before the show I was saying to Hudson, yo, we're about to unleash Spencer Dinwiddie. Like Spencer hasn't played since what I call Game 7 in Staples Center when we went and beat the Lakers right before the world turned. And, Spence didn't go to the bubble, but we saw him working out. And there was a lot of trade talk about him potentially going to the West, going to the Lakers, going somewhere in a package deal. But Steve Nash came out and said, no. He doesn't want to trade Spence. And the quote from Brian Lewis, New York Post, if you follow Talking Nets on Twitter, which you should, we do a lot of retweeting of what Mr. Lewis has to say. And he writes, Steve Nash on how he feels about the idea of dealing Spencer Dinwiddie. I'm heavy towards not trading Spencer Dinwiddie, and the front office feels the same way. Understands having an opt-out after this year complicates things, but says it'd be tough to get a better player. #Nets. And that is how I feel. I think Lauren clipped the episode for like the Friday medley that we do every week with John Boy Media. It's just a quick like clip of, all of our shows. And I think it was the episode maybe right after, we wanted Harden, where I said, I was like, listen, I don't really want to trade Spence because I see Spence getting back into that 6 man of the year role, coming off the bench and leading that second unit. And if KD or Kyrie need rest, or if KD, Kyrie get hurt, or just like you just need another guy that can get buckets, right? Now we know Karras can get buckets, but like Spencer's a little different beast than Karras. Like if we're looking at bucket getters on this team, obviously KD is a walking bucket. We know Kyrie can dribble 100 times, get a bucket. But then I would put Spencer right underneath those two. Yes, Karras can do it as well, but as a true scorer, like Spencer sometimes be getting after it. And I'm pumped to hear that, hey, the organization, the head coach, Sean Marks, everybody, like Spencer Dinwiddie is in the plan.
Yeah, I'll talk about what I don't want because we both know what I do want. I do want Spence on this team. I want him to stay. I agree with Nash. I think we're not going to be able to get a better player just by trading him away. But what I don't want is I don't want the Nets to be in a situation like the Warriors are in now, where one major injury, obviously a very awful, sad injury that we saw to Klay Thompson, where one major injury ends their season. Because we talked about the Warriors being maybe challengers for the Lakers, maybe the best team in the West. Who knows what they're going to do? They have the first overall pick. They can do all these things. Not the first overall pick, sorry about that. But they can do all these crazy things. But they lose a player, and now they're not being talked about anymore because what are they going to do? They're not going to do much of anything.
The
Nets don't really
Warriors
have
got
that
Kelly
problem.
Oubre, though. They got Kelly Oubre.
Right. They got Kelly Oubre. I love my guy.
Andrew Wiggins, though. What about
and
Andrew Wiggins?
Andrew Wiggins. I forgot about him. I forgot he's going to be an MVP #1 overall pick. That's my bad.
And James Wiseman. They're going to ball.
But they don't, they don't have that. No, I know you are, but I've been going back and forth with people on Twitter about that. Like even when you posted that video of the Warriors
here's our first
practicing,
matchup. Here's who we got.
Yeah. There were some people in the comments like, "Ooh, I don't know." But like the Nets aren't going to have that problem. The Nets have all the depth. If Kyrie goes down, Kyrie could go down for 2 months. I don't think the Nets drop that much. I can see the Nets getting major injuries, having to deal with that load management, and being in a great situation because we have all of that depth. And that's something, bring it back full circle to the Harden trade at the beginning of the episode. That's something that we lose with the Harden trade. And now, obviously, James Harden, you might not need depth if you have James Harden, Kyrie, and KD on the court. But what if one of them gets hurt? What if they need to do load management like Nash said that we're going to do? I want to be able to win those games, and I know that Spence can get it done. I know that Spence can win a Sixth Man of the Year. Because honestly, if Trez Harrell can win the Sixth Man of the Year, Spence can win the Sixth Man of the Year. That's my take on it. And I'm absolutely all on board with that. And I think he's going to be in a great position to do that.
All right. Well, I don't really want to talk too much about this next thing, but just one sentence, and I'm not even going to speak on it. I'll let you give us the one sentence. Give me one sentence to reply to this headline. LeBron James says Kyrie Irving's comments about Kevin Durant hurt me a little bit.
Boo-hoo. Enjoy your parade. All right, okay, sure. I'm not going to feel bad for LeBron. Not with this one. Not with this one. There's no reason to feel bad for LeBron.
LeBron, you're the king. You just won a championship. Why are you he shouldn't even address that, and we won't address it any further. That's it for this segment. Let's close out with what else? What else is the segment now where we just talk about what else, right? No, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. We got to go to what's next. I'll probably edit that out. And let me see. And let's jump ahead to what's next. And what's next is just the schedule, man. Preseason starts Sunday, December 13th versus the Washington Wizards. Then Friday, December 18th versus Boston. And then the season starts Tuesday, December 22nd. We're under 2 weeks now. We got Golden State. And the Nets will have 13 nationally televised games in the first half of the season. It's on. It's on. Get League Pass. Get you a nice comfy spot on the couch, get you some beers, get you some snacks, get your routine together because we're not going to the Barclays Center. We're going to be watching these games at home. So that's what's next. That's what we're looking forward to. And I'm looking forward to watching the whole league. The league has reshuffled talent again. There's guys in different places, and this is history. This is literally history in the NBA, in the sports world, starting very soon this month. So that's what is next. Anything about the preseason. Any thoughts about the beginning of our schedule? I know I put the beginning of the schedule in the notes. Hudson, anything you think about what's to come?
Yeah, I think that Nets fans should be excited to watch this team compete in the preseason because they are going to be competing for spots. I don't expect to see, KD, Kyrie, even Spence and Karras getting that much of a run. I expect to see players like Jared Allen, TLC, Landry Shamet, Reggie Perry, these new guys. I expect them to be getting a lot of run. And I am excited to watch them because I want to get a sneak preview to see what they can bring to this team and what they're going to bring to this team and what Sean Marks was doing and the moves that he made and what we think is going to happen with all that. So that's what I'm excited for. And I'm absolutely, obviously, we do a podcast about it. We're not going to miss these 2 preseason games, but you got to readjust your expectations. You got to know what you're getting into. You're getting into a preseason game. You're getting into a game that you're watching because you want to see how the Nets develop players and who these, deeper down the bench players are going to be and how they're going to play, because no team wins a championship because of one player. No team wins a championship because of your starting unit. You win a championship because you have a whole team. And the Nets have a whole team. They have as whole of a team as anybody does in the NBA. I think the deepest team in the NBA by far. And I'm excited to watch them play because it's going to show us what to expect when, Kyrie and Katie are off the floor, because guess what? They're not going to play 40 minutes a night. We're going to have to run these second and third units. And I expect to see some good basketball. And I'm just excited to see how they can mesh and how they can gel and what we can do, early in the season.
Yeah, I'm ready for it, man. And, talking Nets fam, I hope you guys are ready for it too. Like I said, the pod is growing. We're getting more listeners. We got more followers. And it's not all about that, but it is, because we're building this community of fans. We're building this community of Nets fans that people think don't exist. Nah, we're here. We like watching the Nets. We've been rooting for the Nets. We know about these guys. We know about the game, the league, the sport, and now it's our time. So with that being said, if you rock with this podcast, if you rock with me and Hudson, leave us a voicemail, because when these games start, something is going to happen where you're going to want to be heard, your opinion shared, and we will put you right on the pod. The voicemail is 201-870-0461. Every week I get a missed call on this voicemail and nobody says anything, but I get that. It's like you get cold feet, but listen, we're all friends here. Don't get cold feet. Call up the voicemail and say what you want to say about your Brooklyn Nets. Also, follow us on Twitter, first and foremost, at Talking Nets. Follow us on Instagram at Talking Nets. You can follow me at Keith McPherson on Twitter and Instagram, but I'm not beasting for followers. I would like for you to follow my co-host, Hudson Flynn. Where can they follow you?
You can follow me at Hudson Flynn _ on Instagram and Twitter, and at H Flynn on Venmo.
Hey, that's where it's at, man. My guy's a college kid. He needs the bread. Send that Venmo. If you like what Hudson says or does on Twitter, says on the pod or does on Twitter, send a little 5-piece his way. Make sure you follow John Boy Media, the brand, the team, the gang, at John Boy Media across all platforms. Make sure you subscribe to the pod, like for real though. But those numbers are going up, so I'm not even like tripping off that. Appreciate the subscriptions. Need more people to rate the pod. Let's see. I haven't even checked that. Need more people to rate the pod and leave a review, which is the hardest thing. Shout out Justin Pennick, who does Talking Giants. I was talking to him yesterday, and he was saying how, hard it is to get ratings. And September 18th was our last rating. So here's a contest. Whoever listened to the podcast this long, all the way to the end, whoever the first person is to go and write a review and say something from this podcast in the review, screenshot it, send it to me, man, we'll send you some Talking Nets merch easily. We got a bunch of stuff at shop.johnboymedia.com. If you're watching on YouTube, Hudson's wearing the Talking Nets hoodie. We got mugs. We got shirts. We got stuff for babies. It's Christmas coming up. You want a free Talking Nets shirt for Christmas? Leave us a review. And that's all we got. I'm so pumped. Football season's over for me. Basketball season is approaching. Baseball season is in the off season, which is just hot stove rumors and baseball nerds thinking about who mystery teams are and what players are going to land. I need basketball because we should be in basketball season anyway. I need the NBA to return, and I need to be rooting for a team that's one of the best teams in the league, like I think we're going to be. So, anything else, Hudson, before we sign off?
Keith, I want you to close it out the same way you always do.
Let's go Nets, Brooklyn.